Namaste, friends. Welcome. Suswagatam to our Sunday edition of Words of Wisdom, Gyan Ganga on our Virat Hindustan Sangam social media channels. We are back. We had taken a break last Sunday, but we are back today and we will be having another interesting episode, which is episode number 182. And today's interesting topic is how Bollywood is corrupting our culture. And to discuss in the next 40 minutes or so, we have Dr. Subramaniam Swamy, and we also have a guest speaker, Professor Dheeraj Sharma. Professor Dheeraj Sharma is Director, Indian Institute of Management, Rohtak. This is his second term, and he has experience of over 20 years. He has taught in numerous educational institutions in Europe, Asia, North America, etc. Professor Sharma has a doctoral degree in business administration with a major in marketing strategy and a double minor in psychology and quantitative analysis from Louisiana Technical University, USA, Tech University, USA. He is on board and associated with numerous organizations. Professor Sharma has over 150 articles published, and he, as I told you, is with the IIM Rohtak. And earlier on, he was with the IIM Ahmedabad. Uh, Recently, he wrote a book, Filme or Sanskriti, and our topic today revolves around this book and our topic of the show, how Bollywood is corrupting our culture. So, for the next half an hour or more, we will be discussing how the evil influence of Bollywood is corrupting some parts of Bollywood, is corrupting our culture, and we'll have a detailed discussion with Dr. Swamy initiating the discussion and Professor Dheeraj Sharma giving us an insight of his book and what all he knows of what's happening in Bollywood. I have to thank my co-host Arvind Chaturvedi and Ramesh Swamy, and also I have to thank our technical team led by Ashish Shetty, Tejas Navalgul, Ishwar Iyer, Rakesh Gadgi, Vishal Mehta, Swaminathan, and Ajesh Nair for their background support week after week for putting this program together. Oh, with this, it is over to Dr. Subramaniam Swamy to initiate today's important discussion, which many people all over the country and abroad are looking forward to.
Yes.
Thank you. Dhanyavad.
Yes. Thank you, Jagdish. I am too also truly pleased that Professor Sharma, a very distinguished person in the field of business administration, and having taught the subject and now been for quite some time the director of the IIMs in IIM in Rohtak, and I was told about 8 months ago when his term expired, which normally leads to departure. The board of governors of IIM actually insisted that he should continue, and he was renominated to be the director for another 5 years. So I think we have a person of great scholarship, and he has taken a topic which people are talking about in sentences, but he has done research and is the most appropriate book, in my opinion, in the present stage of our society. The topic the topic we have chosen, of course, is titled "How Bollywood." Bollywood means essentially the Bombay Hindi group, which sort of sets the pace for the whole country, is corrupting our culture. So the question is it so? And yes, almost unanimously, people of any maturity are saying yes, that is absolutely so. So I'll begin by saying that there are a number of dimensions to this corruption, and I'll mention those dimensions in briefly, and then hand over the microphone to Professor Sharma. So, first is I would like to say is that the heroes and heroines in our cinema in the past used to set standards, and people used to imitate them for that. But over the years, we find it's getting more and more vulgar, and the vulgarity is being made as legitimate. People use four-letter words in in polite meeting, polite conversations, in serious seminars, and so on. So I think the corruption that we are talking about is in the way people are now talking. They are talking in a way which, in my opinion, is vulgar. The second thing is that this vulgar is also anglicized. So we are speaking today in English, but all the cheap words in English, we are using English because a kind of a stopgap thing, in the sense that we for Sanskrit was wiped out deliberately by the British, and we haven't been able to revive it, and that process is going on. But English is also an international language, and it's used in America, which is the number one economic country. So English is surviving not because Britain has given us something that we are not able to give up, but we think that because the United States has become the world's number one economy, keep learning English is very important. And because of the various divisions in our language problems. English is presently continuing, but the we are not inventors like the Americans. The Americans go on creating their own words and make it as part of their English, but we actually imitate what the Western, where the English or the Americans uses English, and we don't invent anything in our country when we are using English. So in that, I find the vulgar parts of the four-letter words and so on, they are being used in polite companies, in polite places, and I mean, in distinguished people, gatherings. So I think this degeneration is a very serious thing. Then we see that the third thing is the nudity, sex, and so it's made for public display. I mean, it's become very common. I mean, the younger generation is totally corrupted by it, and we see all kinds of these things happening every day on TV. Somebody getting murdered, somebody being ripped apart into 37 pieces. This kind of thing, and this is all part of what we have already seen in the cinema world. So this public display and verbal discourse, which has become vulgarized, this is something. Then finally, I'd like to add 2 points more. One is that the Central Board of Film Certification, which is supposed to monitor all this and cut these thing, is become highly corrupt. They are, people who are agents who, if you give them 5 lakhs or 12 lakhs or 15 lakhs, they'll give you a certification, and it's openly talked about in Bombay. I've seen it in Bombay. People say, this film has been stopped, but now, somebody has been paid 15 lakhs and is bound to get the thing. So you're seeing what should be censored is not being censored anymore. This is something which is thing. And finally, you see the um, the cinema stars are now being compelled by politicians in power to live with them, sleep with them, that kind of thing. And this pressure is we saw in the Sushant case. And in Sushant case, the man wanted to take it up for a particular girl who was killed a few days before he was found dead, and and then that time he decided that he was going to take this matter up, and he got killed himself. So this is something which is a very dangerous development, because film world is also connected to Dubai, and Dubai is connected, and therefore Dubai gets connected with politicians, and our country's politics was going to be completely ruined by the bad influence of the cinema world. So over to you, Professor. It's all yours, and I've just given a. I mean, don't be bound by what I have said. You can say whatever you think is best, and if I've said something wrong, you can also correct me.
Thank you for the opportunity. I think it's It's a very important topic, and first of all, it relates directly to the field of marketing because it sets the tone for things. So I started writing about all of this in 2014. My first article appeared, which is still available online, in 2014, on how film actors and actresses of a certain quality cannot be the ideals or the idols for the youth. Uh, then thereafter, I started writing about stereotypicality in Bollywood and how it has impacted. And in my book, I have covered various topics on the influence of Bollywood on drug usage, on alcohol usage, on other vices, on religion, on nationalism, on societal well being, and so on and so forth. So I'll illustrate this with a bit of an example, which I think would pique the curiosity because I started this in 2014, and a lot of videos were made on this, and this is actually based on empirical data. So the way we started was, after having looked at all of this as films being so influential, I was doing a small focus group interaction with youngsters in the IIM system in IIM Ahmedabad. And I wanted to ask what were the influencing factors for the choice of dress that students would wear on a campus. What they wore, was it predicated on their peers, their family, movie stars, their own choices, individuality, fashion magazines, and so on and so forth. So at that point in time, and this is in my book too, nearly 80%, close to 80% of the people, of the youngsters who are between this age group of 21 and 25 in the IM system typical, would rely on the film actors' attires to choose what they wore. That was a beginning. So when I learned that this was so influential, I said, let me examine this issue more deeply. So what I did was I put together a team and we looked at top 50 movies and then expanded it to 200 movies of 1950s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000 and 2010 onwards. We analyzed these movies on various facets. The first one being the last names of the heroes and last names of the villains, and last names of protagonists, and so on and so forth. So what was very interesting was anytime the typical Bollywood film, the numbers are there in my book. I mean, please read the book and you'll find the exact numbers. But anytime that you
Is
would
it in,
find
one interruption? Is it in Hindi or is it in English? Book.
the numbers are in English, sir, but the book is in Hindi. I deliberately
Ah,
wrote
that's
the
right.
book
That's a very important point because we've got a lot of Hindi audience, so therefore I brought it. Go
so
ahead.
book is
Sorry.
in Hindi, sir. So,
Very good.
so you would. This is my first book in Hindi. It's my 11th book, sir. This is the first one in Hindi.
Okay.
I deliberately wrote it in Hindi.
Yes.
Just imagine, sir, in more than 80% of the movies, the evil politician will always have a Brahmin last name. In more than 78% of the movies, the evil business person will have a Vaishya last name. 84 or 85% of the movies which showed a Sikh person will always show a Sikh person as a buffoon. Um, a Muslim person will always be demonstrated as a devout person who is a very ritualistically religious individual, and is very truthful and faithful. Faithful is a very important word. Wafadari is a word associated. So once I looked at these angles, I said, could it be that this is happening by chance, or there is an agenda? So we further tried to research on why this is happening. So I'll answer the question why it is happening first, and then I'll tell you what is happening. Why the diaspora in the last 20, 25 years has expanded significantly. There was a small study done by my team in North American context where we saw what is the percentage of Indians who attend a typical Bollywood show if it happens, for instance, in Los Angeles or in Chicago. You'll be very surprised to know that I picked up randomly 5 shows, only 5 shows. I have a small sample, I agree, but it's just trying to point out things in the right direction. Who is watching those Bollywood shows? So, in a North American context, the ratio is 60-40. 60% of the people who are watching that show are non Indians. And of that 60%, 90% are Pakistanis. So, what does this demonstrate? The disproportionate size. So in India, if we have about 300 million people watching Hindi movies, we've got Pakistan, which has got about 270, 280 million people watching. So the first reason as to why possibly Bollywood engages in this is because there is a huge Pakistani market that they have to cater to. Second reason is in the last 20 years, the Tamil, Telugu, Bengal, as well as Punjabi film industry has really done exceedingly well. Now catching up very soon is Maharashtrian film industry, Marathi film industry, very strongly catching up. So your pie within India has shrunk. So what do you do for profitability? You have to look at movies which can placate or play into the hands of our neighborhood so that you could make more profits, make more money. So my first speculation here is that this is happening because of the market and because of the agenda. It's not happening by chance. Second very important part, uh, I believe that there is evidence available, and I've written in my book categorically, even citing sources where the funding for Bollywood is very very informal, and large and significant form of funding from Bollywood comes from the Middle East, and many of those financiers are nefarious elements of our society. They have an agenda, and when they push an agenda, that agenda is to break down the very backbone of Indian society. And the backbone of Indian society is our families, is our tradition, is our culture, and our respect for what is Indian. Therefore, as an evidence as to how they have done this, in the last 20 years, Temple has disappeared from Indian movies. If you would remember, in 1950s, 60s, and 70s, when the protagonist was in trouble, he would resort to resolving that dilemma by going to a temple. Temple played a very central character, be it Dilip Kumar in his movies going to Bhagwan and saying, "Hey Bhagwan," or Amitabh Bachchan, "Ab to khush ho Bhagwan." These are all dialogues from movies. I'm just trying to typify them. That Temple played a very central role. However, in the movies of late to mid 90s onwards, Temple disappeared. Temple stopped appearing. The protagonist's relatives would never ever visit the temple, never ever resort to God to resolve the dilemma. However, what really came about was a 180-degree opposite. All the negative characters, particularly the so-called corrupt politicians, corrupt business people, would be shown having havans and wearing tilaks. The numbers are there in my book, by the way. I am not making this up. The numbers are available in my book as to what is the percentage of movies which have shown. This number has grown significantly from 1980 onwards. By the way, I wrote an article in 2020 or 21 that Temple has made a comeback. Actually, in 2020, Temple made a comeback. 1920 temples have now started to come back in Bollywood movies. Let me give you another instance. How denigration of religion has taken place. There used to be a typical scene in almost every Bollywood movie. Again, numbers are available now in my book. I have taken courtroom drama movies from 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s. It was a typical scene where a person would say, "मैं गीता पे हाथ रख के शपथ लेता हूं." in that particular scene from 90s and 2000, 90s onwards has disappeared. There is no oath taking on Gita anymore, even in the most well watched courtroom drama movies. Now, these things just cannot happen by chance. So, what is we have already talked about the intent twofold reason. One, because of the expanding markets in the diaspora abroad, Pakistani market is very attractive. Second, the financing. And third, I believe that the big filmmakers of Bollywood have a very condescending attitude towards the typical Indian. They want to belittle. They want to tell them as to what is right. So media actually has two roles, particularly the media diet. One is to demonstrate what is there in society, and second is to influence what is happening in society. I believe Bollywood movies have taken the second path, which means they don't wish to demonstrate what is happening in society. They want to impact what is happening in society. Kindly indulge me, I'll illustrate this with an example. Just think about this. The typical journey of an Indian youth who is in grade 9, 10, 11, 12 is going to tuitions, going to going to coaching centers, preparing for competitive exams. Kindly show me one movie, a major mainstream movie, I'm talking about major movie, done by the big stars, where they have talked about this strong journey. Most of the movies would present a utopian world where the kid has just finished 12th grade or going to college and wants to go backpacking. I don't know which parents are allowing that. So by giving this example, I want to demonstrate that Bollywood has taken the path of impacting what is happening in society and not reflecting what goes on in society. Same thing goes for the drug culture. Again, there is a study available, freely available, and it's also in my book. These studies I have spent, one of the other expertise Dr. Swamy knows is that I specialize in modernization of prisons. I had collected data from prison inmates in Punjab, in Delhi, in Gujarat, jails. With the jails, these are the jails where I had worked. I had spent some time, and I had advised them in modernization. And it was extraordinary to find that what was the beginning of those drug peddlers or drug consumers who are either awaiting trials or have been convicted in these jails. One of the primary driving elements for them is the euphoria and the sense of machismo which is characterized and presented in our movies. Again, kindly indulge me with an example. I have spent a considerable amount of time, studying abroad, being a professor abroad, and doing research abroad. I would like to bet if people can show me even advertisements of alcohol or smoking in the way, in Hollywood movies as are done in so blatantly in the Bollywood movies. It is remarkable that we are actually glorifying individuals who are indulging objectification of women. Again, I don't know. It is surprising. I do not know of places where women are dressed up the way they are presented in Indian movies. I do not know the behavior of individuals, use of profanities. It's in my book. Language it's again, I have a full chapter on language and Bollywood influencing language. It is remarkable to see how today stand-up comedy has been directly correlated to use of profanities. A person uses a profanity, people start clapping. So, in other words, we are celebrating the use of profanities, which I don't believe any North American or Western European country does. So, is this a deliberate direction that has been given by Bollywood? Let me now come to nationalism. We took a very, very simple yardstick for nationalism is demonstration of a flag, national flag in movies. I took 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s again and compared it to Hollywood movies. You'd be surprised. Exact numbers are in my book. In Hollywood movies, more than two-thirds of movies, which means 66% or more. I think the number would be close to 80%. In some scene in the movie, you would see the American flag fluttering. It could be on a building, it could be on a car, it could be somewhere. National flag plays somewhere in the background. Less than 12% of Indian Bollywood movies have a flag. Flag has also made a comeback in last 4 or 5 years. I mean, flag had disappeared from Bollywood movies. So why again this disappearance? Because it has deep and profound impact. According to sociological experiments which we conducted, we have done experiments to demonstrate what's the impact of this. So impact of this on the youth is following. One, they become subversive. The precondition to becoming subversive is to have lack of faith in institutions. So if a judge is always demonstrated as corrupt or a buffoon, kindly show me any movie where a judge is characterized as a person of a highest character. Very, very few movies in recent times. Please show me a movie where a professors are the ones. I'm sorry, I'm being biased, but Dr. Swamy would agree. Professors are the ones who make and break a society. After First World War, the rise of communism in Europe was primarily attributed to schools of thoughts which were led by professors. Revolutions are created by professors, but how do you characterize professors? So I will illustrate this with an example. One movie which has had deep and profound impact on our youth about college life is called Three Idiots. I took a sample survey amongst the students and asked them to rate which is the movie which has had the most profound impact on them, which relates to a college. And Three Idiots came out to be a number one movie. Three Idiots is set in a so-called institution called ICE or ICI, which is actually IIT. They showed that it is the best institution for engineering in that movie. So in that movie, you are showing the best engineering institution in the country, and the professors of that institutions do not know how to teach. And the protagonist had to tell them that you don't know how to teach. And everybody's laughing about it. The director of the institution is a buffoon. I'm really perplexed that by belittling the education in the top notch institution of India, what message are you trying to send to the youth? You are trying to tell them that the traditional path of working hard, respecting your teachers, following the guidelines of the researchers who may not be the most savviest and the most stylish people on this planet, but get the job done, is the path for suckers. It's not the traditional path which you should follow, and you should challenge what is there and challenge without having thought. So these are very, very deep, profound, strong impacts which have been done, and there is evidence available that it has very negative impact on the self-esteem of our youth, on trust in authorities, on objectification of women, violence, on drug usage, alcohol abuse, and many other outcomes. Well, there are always multivariate equations as to why these outcomes would be influenced by multiple variables, but my studies demonstrates that significant percentage of the variance in these outcome variables is explained by the movies that individuals watch. Rising materialism, objectification of women, drug usage, violence, anti nationalism, subversion, self esteem are some of the major outcome variables which have come out of these negative casting, stereotypicality, projections, subliminal stimuli, which has been portrayed in the Bollywood movies, particularly in the last 30 years, more so than before.
Dr. Swami, you can go ahead now. Your mic's unmuted. You're muted, Dr. Swami. Your microphone has been turned off. Dr. Swami, you have to turn on your microphone. Dr. Swami, can you please turn on your microphone?
Yeah, is it now okay?
Yeah, you're now okay. Yeah.
The question that I have is, After all these films came to the cinema theater only after they got the certificate. So isn't there a flaw there also?
There's a big flaw, sir. Every year, Bollywood alone produces close to 1800 movies. And now you have a list of people who are part of this so-called team which reviews these movies.
Yes.
It's what is the seriousness of these individuals? What is the competence of these individuals? How much time they are able to devote to this activity, and whether these so-called censor board members who review the movies have the right intent, or they can be biased, or they can be impelled into taking decisions. These are all up in the air. So 1,700 movies, a lot of movies. I don't know really if this is being taken very seriously. I don't believe that we have the best possible industry standard when it comes to censorship in our country.
Right. Okay, Jagdish or Ramesh, you take over.
Okay.
Uh, Professor Sharma ji, I have a question. What made you think of writing this book and do this analysis on this way Bollywood is behaving? Can you just tell us a little bit of that background? What interested you to take up this topic?
Jagdishi, I have always been interested in movies, but I'll tell you something. How this happened is when your children start to grow, you start to think about all of these things even more deeply and in a more profound manner. My mother, I have the fortune of living with my mother and with my family. My mother used to watch a television show, sir, and that television show, uh, I'm talking about 8 or 9 years ago. That television show was a very, very popular show. It had many contestants in it. And what happened was one of the contestants was brought in from a North American background. This individual was a pornographic star and was brought on national television on the prime time at 9 p.m. What I started thinking was, how could this happen at the prime time when everybody's out there watching, and what are we trying? What is the message that we're sending? Somewhere along that show, one of the Bollywood producer also joins that show and signs up this particular pornographic star. Now, sir, I have no objections as to what happens, and personally too, no, nothing to say. In a North American setting, uh, the person, any person who does pornography does their own job. They make millions of dollars. They do their own thing, but they are never in the mainstream. Particularly, this particular individual too was doing very well in pornography business abroad, but was never on Jay Leno, was never on Dan Rathers, never on 60 Minutes, never on Charlie Rose, never on David Letterman, never on Jimmy Kimmel. So these are the top shows. They were never there. So the point I'm trying to make is that in the North American system, it's all right. This is an industry, but it's not part of the mainstream. In India, what we did, we brought it to the mainstream, and that's what really made me start writing about this subject. So you can read my articles. It's not new. I have been writing about this thing from 2014 onwards, continuously every single year. All those articles are available in the free space. So what do you do when you do something of that nature? When a top movie director producer picks up an individual from a 9 p.m. show who has no sort of background in movies, the kind of movies that we make, what does this show? This tells my youth that this too is an option, which means if you make enough noise, if you create a scandal, and if you make enough money, you will have people standing by you, and everything else is forgotten. And the traditional path of hard work, or going to film school, or going to a movie making academy, or learning the art, learning the craft, going through the theater, is a path for suckers. It's not a path for individuals. If you send that message to my youth gets impacted, and that's what motivated me to start writing this book.
So, Professor Sharma and Dr. Swamy, there is also a question for you in this. You talked about the Board of Censors. The Board of Censors is not a quote unquote a legal body, right? It's just some amalgamation of people. They have no teeth. They just, they just issue a certificate which has. I don't even know if there is any laws behind it. Basically, there are any laws or things behind it that back that certificate up. So it's just a bunch of people giving a certificate to a movie. Pretty similar to what in America there is no central board of censors. There's some group that just gives it a rating. Okay, at the end of the day. So, do you think is it a cinematographer act that the board of censors is? I think some money. Swamy is telling me it's under the cinematographer act that this board is there, but there is no teeth. Do they have a teeth? Number one. Have you seen any instances of that? Number one. And so let me go over that, and then we can go to the second questions.
Yeah,
They do have teeth. They do have teeth.
Okay.
They do have teeth,
issuing-
Ramesh.
Okay.
you cannot release a movie without the certificate. So
that's
teeth
right.
are there. Are you willing to bite? Should be the question.
Okay.
That's
Okay.
right. Well, I do know the period when I was a minister. Instead of people coming in asking me about exports and imports, because I was a commerce minister, I was very often asked whether I could recommend them to become member of the censor board. And I couldn't find decent people, so I in fact asked Jagdish to be a member. Were you a member, no, of the
I was
censor
a
board?
member of advisory committee under the censor board.
The
I will
censor board.
explain after you finish or Professor Dheeraj Sharma has finished.
Okay.
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 This,
So, but I today know for a fact that very large portion of these certificates are given by purchase. And that's something that we need to rectify by having really eminent people who will be members of the board, not somebody whom the INB minister would prefer to nominate.
Doctor, the second part is where does freedom of expression stop and abuse start? Either one of you can answer this because movies,
Well,
art, they express the freedom of expression. So where does it start and stop?
well, let me get to the fundamental reasons of movies. There are two reasons why movies are made by and large.
Hmm.
The reason number one is entertainment. Reason number two is a demonstration of mastery in a particular art. These are two broad reasons. Uh, well, individuals are expected to operate fully freely to exhibit the art in whatever form they desire, as long as it is not hurting the sentiments of vast majority of individuals. Number two, it is not belittling a vast majority of individuals. Number three, it is not against the law. Number four, it is not promoting a culture which really challenges the foundation or the structures of a society. This is, I'm speaking from research. So the freedom has caveats. All freedom has caveats. Uh, these are the four caveats under which the freedom should be exercised. The true artist would really not demonstrate an art which would not find ways of hurting individual sentiment, hurting a society, hurting the traditions, hurting the culture, hurting the stability or the equilibrium. I believe that's getting violated day by day when it comes to Bollywood movies.
Okay. In the last question, it's more of a comment from what you made, Dheeraj ji. Nepotism has taken over the industry to a large extent. So obviously, when you said people who are getting educated in a proper film school or a director school is going down because nepotism has taken over, at least in majority of Bollywood, that's spreading into the other places as well. But yes, we have seen culture come back in certain very small forms, like what we are seeing in Kannada film industry or the other industries. The non-Hindi uh, linguistic films have really started to grow. I think that is definitely a threat for Bollywood in general in Hindi. So maybe is that I mean, as you said, that's the reason why they're going to quote unquote other audiences that would prefer the way that we are showing, that show the Hindus in a bad light and keep continuing and destroy the culture. So I mean, that's just a comment I just wanted to pass. Go ahead, Arvindji. You wanted to ask something?
Yeah, he's the only one who hasn't spoken so far.
Yeah.
Okay. There are many other dimensions to this problem that we are discussing today. First of all, when we say Bollywood is killing our culture, why identify Bollywood alone? In Tamil Nadu or South Indian film industry is called Tollywood. We also have industry in Northeast. We have one very strong industry in Bhojpuri. At one time, Bengali films, Bhojpuri films, and South Indian films used to be so distinguished from Hindi film that they used to be bigger hit and they used to get translated, converted into Hindi. Now, what has happened over a period of time? Take, for example, Bollywood. You talked about vulgarity and obscenity. I think they start in Indian film industry. I will not say Bollywood film industry. The start of vulgarity and obscenity in Indian film industry started from Bhojpuri. At one time, they have made such hit films. For example, even in Punjab, Nanak Ram Jahaj Hai and so on, Dara Singh acted in so many films in Punjab. And these were religious with a social message. Now look at the Punjabi movies today. So we should not segregate Bollywood, number one. Number two, one very important dimension when we talk about our culture. Maybe Professor Sharma was a little hesitant in mentioning this either in the program or in his book because I've not read his book. The target is Hinduism. Bollywood is dominated by a large number of rich financiers who are from Gulf. He mentioned it, and these are the people who are supporting Islam, Islamic culture. And when he said the stereotypical projection of the Muslim characters in the film is because of that. Number one. Number two, the kind of movies that are made targeting Hindu gods. I mean, can you believe in a country of 80% Hindus, we have a film like PK? And this was a super hit, not only in India, but even outside India, even in China. This film was one of the biggest hits. And nobody objected. People did oppose here and there, but there was no movement. So this, the silence of the Hindus, seeing that they are being targeted, their gods are being targeted, in a trend which is increasing trend, and since they were silent and this trend continued with vigor and continued with the more brazen display of vulgarism against Hindu gods. Nudity and obscenity is a different part, violence is a different part. Maybe some of the new platforms that we have today, OTT. In fact, if you compare the OTT and the feature film, the celluloid, you will be surprised. The OTT is 400% more vulgar and more obscene. And when we say supporting porn, and people have nothing to say, and they don't require a censor certificate. They don't require a censor. And who appoints the censor board? Government appoint. Dr. Swamy is already mentioned. Who is the president chief? President chief is Prasoon Joshi. Prasoon Joshi is an MBA from IMT Ghaziabad. He came to a film through advertising industry. He was an advertising industry copywriter. From copywriting, he came to the writing the film. Now, one more very important dimension, which has not been covered so far, is the language of the songs. Dirty words are used in the Hindi film songs. You will be surprised the kind of language. I mean, we have had Gopal Das Neeraj at one point in time writing for Hindi films. We had Yogesh We had Indivar. I mean, we had such writers in Hindi film industry, Shailendra, and I mean, who have produced films. I mean, they've written for Sangam, Tisri Kasam, and so on and so forth. I mean, you'll be surprised the kind of literature we used to produce from Hindi film song. But look at these Hindi film songs today. So when we talk about attack on culture, the language, and again, I'm not going to the religion of the songwriters, religion of the producers, or religion of the directors. Now certainly there is a very strong correlation. If you look at the data, maybe some of the data which Professor Sharma has produced in his book, this dimension also has to be looked into, about is there a correlation between the background of the producer, background of the director, and the kind of content that is being produced.
So may I make a comment, sir?
Yes.
Yes, please go ahead.
So the first one, I think on the topic was on nepotism. I think more than the word nepotism, I would like to use the word free competition, sir. We have Competition Commission of India, which looks into various aspects of monopoly, duopoly, and other aspects of comparative nature of industry. Now, if Bollywood is an industry, it is certainly anti-comparative in nature. Why? When a big film of a big actor is released, by the way, sir, give or take a few hundred, I can give you the estimate of the screens in India. We have 13 to 14,000 screens only in India. 13 to 14,000 ways in which, or screens in which movies can be shown. These are organized screens, which means single screens and multiple screens put together. When a large movie, big movie is released, they block about 7 to 8,000 of those screens. So from a competition commission standpoint, from a competitiveness standpoint, that really breeds far more impactful nepotistic tendencies than generally. So let's view it from unfair competition. That's addressed in my book as well. It's there. Second question, sir, which Chaturvedi ji mentioned was on songs. I have a full chapter on it. As a matter of fact, I took analysis of songs, sir. Songs really do promote gun violence, objectification of women. I have even analyzed it on attitude towards rape, materialism, and we have found a significant relationship between these outcome variables. Finally, sir, while we can picking up Bollywood, there is a reason for it. I know that there could be vulgarity in other cinema. Bollywood is the most impactful. Even today, people from Bengal, people from Tamil Nadu, people from Kannada industry, people from Punjabi, they want to work in Bollywood. Reverse is not true. There is no aspiration. I mean, people could do a movie in Punjab, people could do a Marathi movie, but that's not out of aspiration. That is out of compulsion, probably. So we have come to expect higher standards from Bollywood. And therefore, we are questioning Bollywood. And on obscenity and all those things, those are, I don't believe they are, in my view, they're not really the major factors. The major factor is they are really impacting the self-esteem of my youth. They are impacting the Indianness of my youth. Please tell me one movie in the last 20 years where they have shown a functional family in which a son is obedient, mother and father are living together. We are showing dysfunctional families in most of the movies. We have even started to show that single parent families are a norm. Are we really insinuating India is not urban India alone? India is also rural India. And these things don't really happen. So the impact is very high, sir. In 1950s and 60s, American government used to use Hollywood movies as a way of creating a yearning for American way of life in Eastern Europe. And sir, with a concerted effort of good 20 to 30 years, they succeeded in creating a yearning in the Eastern Bloc for the Western way of life. Sir, the same was true for India. There was a yearning for Indianness. There was a yearning for Indian way of life. People wanted to be People wanted to look like Devanand. They wanted to be like Devanand. They wanted to be like Raj Kapoor in 60s and 70s. Not so much so. So we have come to expect better standards because Bollywood was a soft power of India. They could have done a great job. They could have done a much better job of marketing core Indian values, core Indian traditions, core Indian festivals, the Indianness, the way we present ourselves in our families, the binding elements of our society. And I'm sorry that Bollywood, particularly because we come to have expect high standards from them, have not done that. And they have actually taken the opposite direction.
One last question. I mean, I think Arvind raised this question. A lot of people, even in the comments, are doing it. OTT, there is absolutely no regulation today for OTT, correct, Arvindji, if I'm not mistaken?
No,
Sharma,
no,
what do you
actually,
think?
I'll correct you there.
Okay.
OTT recently came under the Information and Broadcasting Act about 8-9 months ago.
Okay.
While it has been covered by the Information and Broadcasting Act, but I agree with Arvindji that it is not working. I mean, काम नहीं हो रहा है.
There is no regulation. There is no
There is no
regulation.
regulation, but it has come under the Information
Only
and Broadcasting
self-regulation is there.
Because the
but many-
content there is. Yeah,
But
go ahead,
many MPs, including from the ruling party, have raised this issue in Parliament, and I'm told that the government is seriously considering to regulate this platform also. But
I
I have
don't
one.
believe, how can you do it, sir? It is, you see, YouTube is not an OTT. There is enough content available on YouTube.
Yeah, you cannot control.
There is no regulation. And, in Indian society, we still are a collectivist society where on television, the entire family sits. Some of our own advertisements. I mean, just imagine a country, sir, where the three biggest stars, all of whom have been given and Padma Shris, come on television and come and say Zuban Kesari, that have pan masala. I mean, it's surrogate advertising. We know they are not marketing elaichi. They are marketing pan masala. Everybody knows it's not pan masala. It's not elaichi. Where do you go? I believe that we must appeal to the hearts of these individuals who we love. Please straighten your path. How much regulation, how paternalistic do we want the government to be? Government cannot be that paternalistic. I believe the conscience of these people jo so gaya hai. Just imagine biggest cricketers of India today come on television and say ke Dream 11 pe team banao, jungli rummy khelo. I mean, what are you trying to say? I have recently written an article how these film celebrities are promoting online gambling. It is a disaster.
Professor Sharma, you will be surprised. Supreme Court has ruled that it is not gambling, it is a game of skill. People had gone to the court. This is some more than 25,000 crore market. And it is open gambling. People are destroyed. But Supreme Court says it is a game of skill, it is not gambling.
Arvindji, no, मैं आपको बता रहा 25,000 crore नहीं. This recent Asia Cup which took place, 1,10,000 crore, 1,10,000 crore, sir, gambling took place, sir. Let me quote you a study, sir. Very recently, ED did a case and they found one website based in UK, one single website for gambling, 1,700 accounts originating from India, gambling on cricket. 1,700 accounts. What is the total number, sir? 1,10,000 crores. 1,10,000 crores.
Amazing.
Can you imagine? And when the biggest cricket names come on television unscrupulously and say, "Aao, aaj team banao." Sir, kya expect kar sakte hain hum desh se?
Not only that, even the Bollywood people like Shah Rukh Khan is promoting that A23 or some such thing. There's another platform.
Write another book on how we can rectify all this.
Yes.
Not only
We'll
that,
have to write.
one
We'll
very
have
important
to-
thing.
Sir,
One
we'll
very
have to write a
important
book.
thing is the
Arvindji,
name of the
Arvindji,
name
we'll
of
have
the
to write a
Bollywood
book.
star.
We'll have to write a book, Reset.
Reset,
Dr.
yes.
Swamy's book, Reset Bollywood.
Arvind Chaturvedi, before you wind up the program, I have a very a big question for Dr. Swamy and Dheeraj Sharma ji. My question is, Dr. Swamy, you have been in the forefront that Bollywood is financed by the mafia, the Dubai connection, the underworld, and all that. Could you tell our viewers something on this also?
No, you see, the thing is that everything is done by cash in Bollywood, and so they don't no hardly any checks are issued except perhaps in terms of payment of their dues for the actresses and actors. But all the hiring, all the materials, etc. There, the cash is freely available in Dubai, and Dubai also finances them, and I think they have a particularly a bias for a particular religious community which I shall not name, and consequently you're seeing that is showing itself up in the Bollywood filmdom itself. There have been people with Hindu names, and now they have converted because it makes it easier for them to be actors. This is the kind of thing that is been going on, and so Dubai, they are all criminals, and they do hafta, they do hawala, they do so many things. People who get bribes in our country, they use the Dubai people to convert it into dollars, and then they deposit it in some numbered account abroad. So this is what I was mentioning about the the Dubai influence.
Sir, if I want to use your platform to relay another very big concern,
Yes.
recently a lot of the movies which have not really done that well in India somehow are giving humongous figures coming out of China and also out of Turkey and some other foreign countries. Now, if those numbers are to be believed, and our study, I have an ongoing study on this, by the way, sir. I'll be able to share that study after I publish it in another maybe month's time. When you have a number, let us imagine, let's take a hypothetical scenario that there is a movie called XYZ, which they say has done 500 crore business in China. And then that 500 crore money, because of the money that is earned in China, is now sent to India, to a particular NGO or to a particular production house or to a particular ombudsman or a advocacy group. Or could it not be, funding for anti-India activities? Could it not be funding for terror? Because now there is no way to ascertain whether that movie really made 500 crores in that country. There is no way to ascertain. But the 500 crore money has come to India. How it has come, for what purpose it has come. So I believe that going forward, researchers must examine the foreign earnings of the movies and how they are brought to India. And could they be linked to anti-India terrorism, terror activities, and other activities also is a topic for exploration for future researchers.
Sure, absolutely. And I would also add in a short comment that the Hindi spoken in the Hindi movies is deteriorating to 2/3 English and 1/3 Hindi. And that in that 1/3 Hindi also there probably Sanskrit words must be maybe 2% or 3% only.
Absolutely.
Sir, let me also tell you, Dr. Swamy, and Ramesh is also here. In Hindi Bollywood films, the Tamil Nadu characters or originating from Tamil Nadu or Madras, they call Madrasi. They are shown as comedians, and the language they speak, the Hindi version which they speak, is basically the purpose is to show them as comedians.
Yes,
people make fun of Madrasis. I mean, this is something which is very objectionable.
The flag bearers of various religion and various other priests. How do we project the priests, sir? It's in my book. The priest is always shown as a person who you could give 500 rupees and change a marriage date.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen a priest who has been properly represented in Indian movie, in Bollywood movie?
Sir, what to talk about priest when you have Bhagwan Shiv, Lord Shiva, walking on the streets and people are making fun of Lord Shiva? That is done in PK, and he could survive in in India with 80% Hindus. I mean, I'm ashamed of this.
सर वो क्योंकि
And
हमारे हमारे youth को कर दिया ना. Our youth has now been, we are at a real peril. Youth studies are needed. We need a systematic program. I implore, I beseech, sir. Actually, I beseech Dr. Swamy to please lead the way in conducting more youth studies to really alter the way our youth is thinking. We are in a real peril.
Arvind, before you wind up, just information of the viewers, Virat Hindustan Sangam stage dramas in Pune and surrounding areas, Bina PK.
Yeah, PK. Yeah.
Dr. Swamy attended, ABVP also supported it, and ISKCON volunteers participated. Bina PK, we showed how illogical was PK, just for the benefit of the viewers. Okay, Arvind, you may wind up.
Okay, just one more comment I would like to make. There was a time when Muslim actors and actresses thought that since the population of watching Hindi film is more than 85% Hindu, the Muslim names will not be hit. Yusuf Khan became Dilip Kumar. Mahjimi became Meena Kumari. Even that villain Ajit had a Muslim original name. I mean, these people were then thinking that Muslim names will not be hit. And look at now, the entire Bollywood is Hindu phobic, and they are targeting, and very silently. Now the movement has come. 2 days back, Jagdish in Mumbai, UP Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath was there, and he was to meet the people from the film fraternity because he is starting a film city in UP. And only one person, your same surname, Sunil Shetty. Sunil Shetty raised this issue with Yogi Adityanath that please avoid this boycott Bollywood. He can do this. And then he said, the kind of work that you are doing, I think the boycott is the only solution. And when the complete boycott will take place as a movement, I think then only the Bollywood will actually improve and they will learn some true lesson. Thank you, Dr. Swamy. It was such an important issue. Professor Sharma has raised one very important issue, though we could not discuss because the time was short. He talked about surrogate advertising. In fact, if we look at the advertising industry, this is where I started my career. Surrogate advertising, you have in the name of Bagpiper, which is a brand name of whiskey, you have the playing cards and you have the small crockery. And television is showing, and we are hypocrite saying that on television cigarette and sharab ka advertising nahi hoga, but actually by surrogate advertising you can do that.
Sir,
I mean that's so many issues.
Sabko pata hai, everybody knows officer choice is not a CD.
Why that's what I'm saying, it is hypocrisy. It's the open hypocrisy. We have a rule that cigarette and sharab cannot be advertised. Wigs made for each other. Fashion show can be done, but cigarette cannot be advertised by the same name. I mean, isn't it hypocrisy? But anyway, there are so many issues. Because of short of time, we cannot discuss all that issues. You talked about censor board's effectiveness. There have been some cases that Alauddin Khilji film or that Ram Leela film, where the name was also changed under the pressure. So if they want, they can show some effectiveness. Censor board has done it in the past, but only thing is the political will is required. Professor Sharma, your research really shows there are certain the areas which we need to protest and stop. If we don't do that, this will further aggravate and it will harm the culture. OTT is of course another danger, and we can have another program especially on OTT and related issues. Thank you, Dr.
That's
Swamy. Thank you, Professor Sharma, Jagdish Shetty ji, Ramesh Swamy. I thank the technical team led by Ashish Shetty, Gadgi Rakesh, Swaminathan, Tejas Navalgul, Vishal Mehta, Ajesh, Swaminathan. Thank you very much. We'll be meeting again next Sunday, 15th of January, with another program and 183rd episode of Words of Wisdom Gyan Ganga. Till then, Namaskar, Jai Hind.
Namaste.